أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأمنا ar-Rahman. So we had started this last time, and tonight we're going to finish it. And what did we say last time? We said that Umana is the plural of Amin. And Amin means someone who is trusted. He's a trustworthy person. And this is a quality that has been displayed in that person for a long time, and it's a deep and real quality of that person. So it's often linked to when a person is given something to look after and safekeep. It was the title of Rasulullah even before declaring prophethood. He was known as Muhammad Amin in society. And then we had mentioned some dangers of being Amin, and we said that neither of these two dangers apply to Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. They don't apply to A'imma alayhimus salam. And they were, number one, that maybe someone doesn't have the capacity to bear the amanat. Well, that doesn't apply to them because their capacity is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number two, possibly someone who is trusted with something will not remain honest and trustworthy. But because they are infallible and ma'soom, they are free from all manner of mistake and error, and hence they are completely free from this danger as well. Now, in today's session, first of all, let's touch upon a very, very interesting and subtle point, which no one asked me about actually. Last time, I was expecting maybe someone would ask, wa Umana ar-Rahman. Why Rahman and not Umana ar-Raheem, right? So why specifically Umana ar-Rahman? So this is an interesting discussion where Allah says in 7:156, he mentions that in one verse, he mentions that there are two distinct types of mercy which he has. Okay, so he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa rahmati wasi'at kulla shay. My mercy embraces all things. So all things receive my mercy. And then in the same verse, he says, فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا, and soon I will appoint my mercy لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ, for those who are pious, وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ, and they give the zakat, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِآيَاتِنَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, and those who have iman in our signs. So in this one verse, you see two different things. You see my mercy encompasses and embraces all things, and we see another mercy which he says is for those who have piety, they do good deeds like paying zakat, and they believe with a firm belief in our signs. So hence we have two types of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is represented by the names Rahman and Rahim. The first is a general mercy of Allah, and this includes everything. Everything comes under the general mercy of Allah. Even the anger of Allah will come under the general mercy of Allah. This includes all creatures, jinns, humans, angels, stones, plants, animals. They are all created and all are sustained. A kafir is sustained, a Muslim is sustained, a mu'min is sustained, a munafiq is sustained by Allah. They all receive their income, their food, their sustenance, etc. So this is the general mercy of Allah. It applies to all things. وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy embraces and envelops all things. This general mercy, what is the opposite of this general mercy? Well, it doesn't really have an opposite. If we were to give an opposite for it, then it would be nothingness. Adam, what we say in Arabic, Adam. It would be nothingness, because this is the mercy. This is Allah's mercy which brings things into existence. The fact that things even exist is from this mercy. It reaches everything. Everything you can think of is enveloped and embraced by this mercy of Allah. Its opposite would be, well, to not exist. So it doesn't have an opposite as such. And this is, as we said, signified by the name Rahman. Then Allah has a special mercy that is mentioned in that verse, فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا. I will soon appoint it. What? My special mercy, لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ. Here he doesn't say for everyone. He doesn't say كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. He says, for those who have piety, وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ, they pay the zakat, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِآيَاتِنَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, and they believe in our signs. So this is for this special mercy, is for special people, for a smaller group of people. To make it easy, we can say this is for the believers, the mu'mineen. So if you look at, for example, 33:43, Allah expands on this. He says, هُوَ الَّذِي يُصَلِّي عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ, it is He who blesses you, and so do His angels, لِيُخْرِجَكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, that He may bring you out from darkness into light. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا, and He is most merciful to the faithful. So Raheem applies to mu'mineen. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. Does this have an opposite? Yes, this has an opposite. The opposite of this is anger of Allah. So when Rahman is manifested, it creates the world, the sky, and all the beings, the jinns, the humans, the angels, the stones, the plants, the animals, heaven, hell, rizq, sustenance. It pays attention to all people, whether they are good or bad, whether they are believers or non-believers. But when Rahim is manifested, then it is especially directed to the believers, the pious, and the righteous people. Hence, Rahman is what bridges between Allah and all His other names and qualities. Because why? Think about it. He's generous. He has to have something to be generous to. So therefore, He first has to create and then be generous. So Rahman links all the other names of Allah because it's Rahman which brings things into existence. There it doesn't discriminate between mu'min and non-mu'min. And so when He's generous and kind and merciful and creating and these things, this all comes from, it bridges from the name Rahman, the manifestation of the name Rahman. And this is why Allah says, ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa. He is the all-beneficent, settled on the throne. That is 25 in the Qur'an. So now let's do a very quick discussion. Why on the Arsh does it say ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa? Why again Rahman with Arsh? Because Arsh means throne. And this is a metaphorical way of saying that the Arsh represents the kingdom authority of Allah and how He is obeyed in this world that He has created. The same way a king has authority, but obviously for a king to have authority, we won't call that real authority. It's fake authority. It's authority that people give him. The way a human king, for example, has authority over all his subjects, Allah has real authority and rule over His subjects. Allah's rule, of course, is not limited by anything. He knows all and there is no escape from His kingdom. There is no place where you can go and say, this is now not the kingdom of Allah. No, because He has, from His name ar-Rahman, brought everything into existence. So we will not say, for example, that Karbala is where mu'mineen are, so that's the kingdom of Allah. Or Mashhad is where mu'mineen are, so that's the kingdom of Allah. No, everything is the kingdom of Allah. Why? Because He's created everything and everything belongs to Him. And therefore that is from Rahman. So His rule and authority comes from Him, bringing things into existence and providing for them. Hence, this verse uses the name Rahman because it has created everything and His authority is over that which he has created. That basically brings us to the end of Ayatullah Jawadi's explanation. Now we'll go on to Ayatullah Zia Abadi's. Ayatullah Zia Abadi, he makes a very interesting point. He says, Umana is used because they are Amin and they are trustworthy. But what are they trusted with? What is this amanat which Allah has given them to safekeep? He says Allah has trusted them with the most amazing trust possible, which is the running and management of this world and of religion. They explain religion to us, they bring religion to us, they receive the wahy of Allah, they give the wahy of Allah to us. Then he goes on to say, which is a very beautiful point, he says the names and titles that Allah gives are not just polite titles and honorific titles. We may see someone and we may say Sheikh, scholar, alim. We may say, for example, Ayatullah, Hujjatul Islam. Okay, these are very nice, polite and honorific titles, and it's good to give these titles to people who are of that kind of stature. But these are things that we give. When Allah gives, it is not just polite and honorific. It is real. It has a hakikat behind it. So when the Imams are given their titles and names, they are truly, truly those names. For example, if we say that Nabi Ibrahim is Khalilullah or Khalilur Rahman, that he's the friend of God, this is not just polite and honorific. He truly had that close connection with Allah, that Allah regards him as a friend. If we say Musa is Kalimullah, that he spoke to Allah, it's truly that he spoke to Allah and he conversed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same goes for Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. Their titles are true titles. So Umana ar-Rahman is not just an honorific, nice thing to say about someone. No, they are truly Ameen of Allah, of ar-Rahman. For example, Janabi Fatimah. Not only is her name was Fatimah. Fatimah means what? Someone who is separated. So not only is she separated from every kind of pollution herself, her true followers are also separated from the fire of hell. Fatimah is Zahra. Zahra means one who shines and makes the entire heavens and the earth shine with her nur. And in fact, we have in Hadith that heaven is made from her nur. We have this Hadith. This Hadith is in Bihar. This is actually now from the commentary on Ziyarat Jamia Kabira of Ayatullah Tahriri, who I refer to not as much as the other two, but a little bit I do refer to this one. He has brought this hadith. He says that Imam Sadiq narrated that the Holy Prophet said, Khulika nuru Fatima. The nur of Fatima was created qabla an yakhluqa al-ardha was-sama. Before Allah created the earth and the heavens, or it could be qabla an yukhlaqa, before the heavens and the earth were created. فَقَالَ بَعْضُ النَّاسِ. So when the Holy Prophet said this, some of the people said, Ya Nabi Allah, O Prophet of God, فَلَيْسَتْ هِيَ إِنْسِيَّةٌ. So are you saying that like she's not a human? Like what is she? If she was created even before the heavens and the earth were created, then what is she? Is she not a human? What exactly are you trying to say? He replied, فَقَالَ فَاطِمَةُ حَوْرَاء إِنْسِيَّةٌ. He said, you know what? She's in a different category. She is Hawra Insiya. She is a human, but she's a heavenly human. قالوا يا نبي Allah. Then they said, O Prophet of God, فما كان طعامها. So if she's this special kind of creature, if she is like this heavenly human, then what does this mean? What does she eat? قال التسبيح والتقديس والتحليل والتحميد. He replied, her food, what sustains her, is tasbih of Allah, taqdees of Allah, saying La ilaha illallah, and saying Hamd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these things are true. These things are very, very real for Aimma alayhimus salam. When we say Murtaza, Mujtaba, Shaheed, Zainul Abidin, etc., etc., these are true titles. When we say Amirul Mu'mineen, these are true titles. Others in history try to name themselves Amirul Mu'mineen as well. That was fake. But for Mawla Ali alayhi salam, it is a true title. Hence the Holy Prophet would say, every time I wish to remember heaven, I smell the fragrance of Zahra, because she is this kind of heavenly human being. Another hadith which I wanted to bring to your attention is from Ayatullah Zia Abadi's works with regards to this position of the Imams being the trustworthy, trusted servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the 10th Imam, who also has taught us Ziyarat Jamia. 10th Imam says, Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Indeed, Allah ja'ala qulub al-a'imma mawridan li-iradatihi, has made the hearts of the Imams the place of His will. وَإِذَا شَاءَ شَيْئًا شَاءُوهُ. When He wills something, they also will it. In other words, they're so closely connected with Allah that when they are in charge of the management and running of this universe, it is all done in the will of Allah. It's not something separate. No one here should say that this is a ghulu or we believe in more than one God or imams are God. No. He has given them this right. He has given them this permission. He has given them this power. And they do things according to His will, not their own independent will. And then we have another nice point which Ayatullah Zia Abadi brings. He says, now, what about today? Who is the one running this universe today? He says, of course, it is none other than Imam Asr, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And he brings a hadith again. This one is from Kafi, Usul Kafi. Iradatul Rabb fi maqadiri umurihi tahbitu ilaykum. The will of the Lord God in His different matters and affairs, in all the things that He has destined, descend upon you, tahbitu ilaykum wa tasduru min buyutikum, and then they pass out from there into the rest of the world, maybe carried by the angels, you can say. The angels then do the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the permission of the Imam, with the sign-off of the Imam. It first goes to the Imam. Imam then instructs them and he is in control of what happens next. And this spreads from his house. So today, who is it? It is Imam Zaman, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Hence, what are they? They are, according to the Qur'an, 2173, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. We made them imams, guiding by our command. They guide. Allah is a guide, yes, but imams are guiding on behalf of Allah. بِأَمْرِنَا, by our command. They don't do anything independently. They don't do anything according to their own whims. They do it with our order and our command. So they guide everything and they make it reach its potential. Now, Ayatullah Zia Abadi then says, now which amr is this? Bi amrina, which amr is this? Which order, which command? Innama amruhu idha arada shay'an an yakula lahu kun fayakun. His command when he wills something is to say be and it is. This is 3682 Surah Yasin. In other words, they have been given that authority, they've been given that power, that position by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they can have this much trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they can use His command, they can use that trust which they have to run things according to His will. Finally, in this discussion, and we'll finish with this last hadith, is the following. This is from Imam Jawad alayhi salam, the 9th Imam. This hadith appears in Usul Kafi. Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, Allah, lam yazal mutafarridan. He was always there. Biwahdaniyatihi. He was always there. He was one. He was alone. Thumma khalaqa Muhammadan wa Aliyan wa Fatimah. Then He created the nur of Rasulullah, Amirul Mu'mineen, Janabi Fatima, etc. فَمَكَثُوا أَلْفَ دَهْرٍ. Then 1,000 ages, Alfa Dahrin, 1,000 ages passed. That there was Allah and these three Noors. What is 1,000 ages? We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We can't put it into numbers. A phenomenal amount of time. فَمَكَثُوا أَلْفَ دَهْرٍ. 1,000 ages passed and there was only these three Noors with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثُمَّ خَلَقَ جَمِيعَ الْأَشْيَاءِ. And then He created everything else. Of course, here when we say that Rasulullah, Amirul Mu'mineen and Janabi Fatima have been mentioned in this hadith, we know from our previous discussions that they are all Nurun Wahid. So this includes all of the Aimma alayhimus salam. ثُمَّ خَلَقَ جَمِيعَ الْأَشْيَاءِ. Then He created everything else. فَأَشْهَدَهُمْ خَلْقَهَا. And then He made them witness. He made them witness His creation of all of the rest of the universe. وَأَجْرَى طَاعَتَهُمْ عَلَيْهَا. And then he made everything obedient to them. وَفَوَّضَ أُمُورَهَا إِلَيْهِمْ. And he passed this kind of authority and this trust of his to them, to these Anwar. فَهُمْ يُحِلُّونَ مَا يَشَاءُونَ. Now this is where it gets interesting. So they make halal whatever they want. وَيُحَرِّمُونَ مَا يَشَاءُونَ. They make haram whatever they want. وَلَنْ يَشَاءُ. But they never will something, they never want something, إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Except that Allah wills it. So are they acting independently? Is this the religion of Amirul Mu'mineen? No, we will say this is the religion of Allah. And Amirul Mu'mineen is one of the leaders of this religion. We never say Amirul Mu'mineen acts independently of God. لَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. They never will something except that Allah wills it. Ya Muhammad. And then Imam addresses the person he's speaking to, whose name was Muhammad. Ya Muhammad. هَذِهِ الدِّيَانَةِ. This is true religiosity. This is true piety. التي من تقدمها مرك ومن تخلف عنها محك ومن لزمها لحق خذها إليك يا Muhammad. He says, so then, O Muhammad, this is true piety and religion and religiosity. Whoever goes ahead of this belief, he transgresses this belief, he passes by this belief. Whoever goes too far ahead will exit the right way. He will remove himself from the true path. And whoever falls behind it and doesn't reach it will be destroyed. But whoever sticks to it and grasps it will reach the truth. So, O Muhammad, khudha ilayk. So therefore, grasp it and take it and accept it. So you see, the position of Aimma alayhimus salam is something very special. I hope this Umana ar-Rahman, we have been able to do a little bit of justice to it and explain it in a nice way. And I think we will stop there for today. And we will, from next week, go on to the next line of our discussion, inshaAllah, which is وَسُلَالَةَ النَّبِيِّينَ. Now we can move on to any questions if there are. These phrases sustain Fatimah. Okay, the taqdees, the tahleel, the tasbih, yeah. Okay, so they sustain her. In other words, metaphorically speaking, her heavenly side is what? In heaven, we don't eat the food of this world. So she's a heavenly human being. So what sustains her? Her true identity is her ruh, and she is from the heavenly qualities, and the heavenly fragrances is from her. Therefore, she's so special that this worldly life is not very important to her, and her ruh and everything, this is her special quality that she has. She's always sustained by these things. In other words, she's always connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can we connect it to tasbih of Bibi Fatima? Yeah, we can. It is a zikr at the end of the day, and these are all zikrs. So yes, we can say that tasbih Fatima is also part of this. And maybe that's why it has such a significance and such a power, because it comes from this great lady. So I think now we will conclude. So that was our discussion on Umana ar-Rahman. And we only have a couple of sessions left for Mahi Sha'ban, and then we'll be taking a break for Ramzan. And Kushani Mubarak to everybody on the birth of Imam Zaman. We have dedicated this whole thing to him. I hope he'll be happy with it and pleased with our small efforts. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.